Joined by Doug Bucshon from Blue and Orange News, Illinois Rivals site, where you can go for coverage of the Illini. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to the big game tonight at State Farm Center.
Yeah, as we call the spaceship in the cornfield. It's actually, I tell people, if you haven't seen it, it's actually a cool looking. It looks pretty cool because it's underlit, but it looks like a spaceship out in the cornfield when you get out close to it. A very cool design, and that thing is, how old is that center?
I'm not sure exactly. It was built in the '60s. I don't know exactly what year, so it's up there.
Yeah.
But they totally rehabbed it a couple of years ago. So the inside of the arena is state of the art. Really nice place to play basketball. And the great thing about it is the seats are a lot closer to the floor now, and the Orange Crush section, the fan section, is right behind the benches. So it's a nice atmosphere to play college basketball.
Yeah, especially those recliner seats I noticed that they have there last time I was there. They have a recliner seats and an area where you could just order from, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how much those seats are. They're not always filled, but they do have that.
That ain't the $50 seats. I can tell you that.
No.
Doug, I almost said it. Dustin Schutte with us as well, our co-host from Outsider.com. The Big Ten, man, it has been the Big Ten this year, which is to say nothing like we thought it was going to be. A lot of us thought it was going to be Indiana, Michigan, Illinois at the top. Then Indiana has had their problems, which have been multiple. Illinois all of a sudden fell off the cliff. Now they're climbing back. They've won 4 straight. Indiana trying to get on that train, but Illinois seeming to be there a little sooner. We talked about Sky Clark leaving and the potential of that being addition by subtraction. It's been a wonky season right now, and Rutgers is near the top. They're a half a game out of first place or a game out of first place, which no one predicted that. But if I look in the standings right now, Michigan and Illinois are in the top 4.
Yeah, they are, and you never know how it's going to shake out. You have Purdue, I think, is clearly the best team at the top. Then maybe Minnesota and Nebraska at the bottom, although they've pulled a couple upsets. Then everybody else in between, you can just put their name in a hat and shake it up and pick a team. It's Rutgers is playing well, but it's just the conference is schizophrenic, and you don't know who's going to beat who on any given night. You can't count on home field or home court advantage nearly as much as you used to be able to in the Big Ten. So it's going to shake out here, I think, with a lot of games played in the month of January. Everybody's playing a lot of games. They took some time off around Christmas break, and now they're cramming all the games in just a few weeks. But big game tonight between Illinois and Indiana in standings. And you talked about Sky Clark, but I think the improvements we've seen from Illinois have a lot more to do with changes that Brad Underwood made rather than changes to the roster. Completely revamped the offense, tweaked the defense quite a bit, changed the lineup, and kind of optimized that with the way that they're playing. And they're playing really good basketball right now.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask. It seemed to me like, it's easy to point at the change to the roster and say this is when Illinois started playing well. And as you hate that for a kid who's 18, 19 years old. But at the same time, that's what I was going to ask. In what area have they improved the most over these last 4 games? Because they've not only won games. I mean, they've been blowing some teams out. I think the average margin of victory is double digits in those last four victories. So obviously something's clicking. I'm curious to see, a firsthand account what you're seeing that's been so much different and where they're having maybe more success that they weren't having before.
Well, they started out the season. Brad Underwood wanted to play a 5-out offense, and he thought he had recruited those type of positionless players and a whole bunch of wings that they could put out there and look like the Golden State Warriors, but it just wasn't working. They were having all kinds of trouble scoring points. After they went to New York City and they beat the number 1 Texas, but after that, everything kind of fell apart offensively. And wholesale changes. He changed the lineup. He put Dane Danger, the big man in the post, put Sincere Harris, the freshman guard, in the starting lineup, who's known as a defensive stopper, and just changed the way they play. Now they're playing a spread motion attack, a more traditional, conventional offense. They're feeding the post. They're playing inside out. They're running a lot of ball screens, and they're scoring. They're scoring a lot easier than they were scoring before, and they're putting the ball in the hands of Terrence Shannon Jr. And with the old offense, it was just kind of it was just kind of luck if he got the ball at crunch time. Now they're giving him the ball in scoring opportunities where he can make an impact. And I think they just threw the 5-out offense into the trash can and started from scratch.
Well, and a lot of talk of Indiana's offense needing to be changed for multiple reasons, whether it's been injuries that they have sustained, which they have sustained injuries that have affected this team. You can't, and I'm not going to say otherwise, especially like I mentioned earlier, losing Xavier Johnson. Not only do you lose a veteran, that's their best on-ball defender, and that's the guy that would be guarding someone like Terrence Shannon tonight, who is going to be a headache for Indiana now because you can't have Jalen Hood-Schifino on him too long for fear of drawing fouls and having to have Jalen Hood-Schifino in the game. Now you put Trey Galloway on him, which nothing against Trey Galloway, but he's not Xavier Johnson. And Terrence Shannon is doing a remarkable job this year, 6'6" guard, big guard. He's going to make it. They're just a big team right now. They've gotten just so big. And then now you look inside, Indiana's hurting because they've lost Race Thompson, one of their bigs. You've got Trace Jackson Davis, but Illinois is throwing 3 guys 6'10" at you. And Malik Renew, this is a game where he's going to have to step up. He kind of hit a freshman wall. He was playing really well, and then it just kind of leveled off for him once Big Ten play came around. And Indiana is the perimeter game. They're going to have to force this game and hit some shots tonight if Illinois is going to plan on plugging up the paint.
Yeah, they do have the 2 injuries, which is big. You can't really lose players of that caliber in the Big Ten and go out every night and expect to play the way you did before the injuries. But they do have the X factor. They have the best player in this game in Trace. Illinois is going to have to defend the rim. And if you look at the statistics, Indiana's scoring a heck of a lot of points in the paint, and and state defending Trace Jackson Davis without fouling is going to be huge for Illinois. They can't get Dane Danger in foul trouble. I think what they'll probably do is run a few guys at him with Danger, and Coleman Hawkins and Matthew Meyer will probably all take their shot at guarding him. But he's been an Illinois killer over the course of his career, and stopping him is really and not just stopping him offensively, but on the first shot, but stopping him from hitting the offensive glass and getting putbacks and second chance points is going to be huge for Illinois.
And in this game, Indiana, we saw them play really well defensively against Wisconsin over the weekend, but that's the team they really slow down the game, so it kind of played into Indiana's hand. Do you expect Illinois is going to push the tempo as much as they can, because that seems to give them an advantage, and it's also what Indiana struggled with when you look at some of the losses they've had this season?
They want to speed it up a little bit. I don't think they're going to want to turn it into a track meet. They don't have the ball handlers that they had. They only have two pure point guards, in Jaden Epps and Sincere Harris are the only 2 point guards on the roster now that Sky Clark is no longer with the team. But, they're going to grab it and go. They got guys like Terrence Shannon who can grab it and go. Matthew Meyer, who's been playing really good, is hitting double figures every game. He's going to grab it and go and put some pressure on the defense and make them defend, the whole court for the whole shot clock. But this time of year with the way scouting is in the Big Ten, if you've been watching the games on TV, they've all been turning into half-court games and kind of grinded out games. And I'm expecting a lot of the same tonight.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Illinois was tied for last in the Big Ten Conference at 0-3. They won 4 straight. They're now 4-3. They are maybe a half a game out of third. So they're in 4th place in the conference. To go from last to 4th in 2 weeks, that's a pretty damn good run, and that means they've got a lot of confidence as well. They're at home tonight. On top of that, so this should be a good game with Indiana playing well in the last game, but this is a different type. They're playing Wisconsin did not have this length, and they were without Wall, so they were without their best player. This is a tough task for Indiana, and they're going to have to play with the moxie they played with that they haven't been. But Indiana's going to have a surprise from somebody tonight for them to win this game, in my opinion, because it's just the cards are kind of stacked against them, Dustin, with the talent that Illinois, not only the talent they have, but how they're playing, as Doug pointed out. Brad Underwood, who's very under-regarded as a coach in this league, I'm going to say. But he made changes. He saw the changes had to be – things were not going well for Illinois, and he knew that they were a preseason favorite, and they were sucking 0-3, but made the changes, and wow, look what is happening. And I think Indiana needs a little bit of that, and that's what a lot of the fans have been calling for in certain areas, because the big talk about Indiana has been depth, going into the season, and then they lose a couple guys, and that depth disappears because the guys coming in didn't have the experience needed. So this is going to be a tough task for Indiana, Doug, and Illinois is coming back around. Are they a team that you think can not only, forget about this game, but challenge Purdue for the Big Ten title, because the Big Ten championship is going to go through West Lafayette?
That's yet to be seen. Like I said before, I think Purdue is clearly the best team in the league. They got the X factor in Zach Edey, who's so hard to contend with. I mean, how do you contend with a guy 7'5" when he gets the ball in the paint? It's an automatic 2. He shuts down the lane, defends the rim. I can't honestly see Illinois winning the Big Ten Conference in the regular season, but the way they're playing right now, I think they can definitely move up in the standings and challenge for the 2 spot. One thing you mentioned was depth in this game, and that's in my preview on the side. That's one of my keys to the game, are bench points. Illinois' bench has outscored the opponents in almost every game this year. They bring the freshmen off the bench, and they score a lot of points.
Talk about Jaden Epps.
Jaden Epps, he's a natural scorer. He can shoot the 3. He can drive the basketball, and and that group can score. And Indiana's shorthanded. You look at their numbers, and the bench hasn't been putting up a lot of points. So I think that will be a key.
Freshman that's coming off the bench that has scored in double figures in 6 out of his last 7 games. He's averaging 11 points a game, 9 assists, and 2 turnovers in his last 3 games. So when you can bring a freshman off the bench that brings production, yeah, you're doing really well, because we're talking about an Indiana team just getting production off the bench right now.
That's right. I think the fatigue factor is going to kind of even itself out, though, because Illinois just played on Monday. Knowing Brad Underwood, he had some hard practices in between. So Monday to Thursday, a quick turnaround. But they are able to go a little bit deeper into the bench and not lose much. I think in Indiana being shorthanded, we'll see how things go late in the game and where teams are at fatigue-wise. But as far as bench production, I think the advantage definitely goes to Illinois.
Absolutely. Doug, go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just going to, really quick, I don't know. We talk about bench. I feel like Malik Renew could be a potential factor in this game, because I don't know that if Trace Jackson Davis gets into foul trouble, or has to get on, isn't playing well, they're going to need somebody to step up off the bench. And with Illinois having some bigger guys shutting him down, I feel like Renew is a guy who could have that opportunity. He hasn't had a lot of them, but this could be. We saw Jordan Geronimo have his breakout game against Wisconsin. Maybe this is his opportunity to have that big performance when Indiana needs it.